Hi everyone, welcome to the latest edition of Pro Wrestling Defined. I'm your host Jonathan O'Dwyer, and special guest on the show today, former graphic designer working for WWF Magazine back in the 1990s, and he wore some other hats there and has some very interesting stories from his time working in the business. Matt Kornhaas, how are you doing today, my man?
Good, Jonathan. How are you? Good to be on.
Doing great, man. Yeah, it's awesome to have you on. How's everything? How's life with yourself at the moment now with all the craziness going on in the world? How's everything with yourself?
It's good. It's good. I dealt with COVID last month, so I'm kind of dealing with a little bit of nasal situation. I can't taste my food very well, and that's good and bad depending on how good the cooking is in your home.
Yeah.
All right, she's going to hear that, but never mind. So yeah, doing well. Life is chaotic. It's trying to get busy again. Business is down a little bit. I work mostly in events and the travel industry, so they took quite a hit over the past year, as you know. So I'm trying to deal with that. But yeah, I always manage to keep busy doing all kinds of different things. It is 5 o'clock right now, so I'm just going to do a Voodoo Ranger IPA. 9.0. So it's cheers to you, Jonathan. Let's we'll get the ball rolling here.
Cheers, my friend. Boom.
Cheers.
I wish I could join in the buzz, but
understood.
Plain old water has to do for myself.
That just means there's more for me right now. Okay, so
it's always a good thing. Always a good thing. So let's start at the beginning. I understand you were a big wrestling fan growing up, and so talk about your fandom and how you wound up getting involved in the wrestling business.
Yeah, I became a fan of wrestling just because wrestling was available in the metro area. I'm from Connecticut, so there was wrestling on Saturday afternoons at the time, Saturday nights at midnight on Channel 9. We had USA Network. We had a couple others that would occasionally get the AWA. I mean, out of nowhere, and that was a treat too. But I became fascinated. I saw a match one day, with two masked wrestlers. The masks were white against another team. I didn't know anybody involved. I was probably 8 or 9 at the time. But as the match progressed, the masks became bloodied. I've never seen that done before, so I was glued. I'm like, wow, these guys are bleeding under their masks. The masks are turning red. So I was fascinated. So then I started, actively searching for more wrestling that was out there. And then I saw the matches like Bruno Sammartino versus Superstar Billy Graham. What encounters they've had. And you can see them on YouTube, which is really cool too. But I became hooked almost immediately. It was really cool to see this. So I went to some local matches too. New Haven Coliseum. Where else did I go? I bought every magazine I could get a hold of on the magazine rack too, and we talked about those too. Anything with blood on the cover, I wanted to see it. So then in the 80s, what happened to wrestling is you had that huge explosion, the rock and wrestling, the stuff on MTV. You couldn't get away from it. It was the new golden era of wrestling at that point. And everybody was watching it. Everywhere you went to a diner, everybody's watching wrestling. Everyone's talking about wrestling. So it was I was a big fan. I couldn't get enough of the stuff. And when I graduated college, I had a couple of friends that worked for the WWF at the time. And for the purpose of this interview, I'm going to call it WWF because us old-time WWFers, as we call ourselves, we never grasp that name change. We sort of don't accept it. So we'll just really don't.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, so we'll just call it WWF for these purposes here. So had a friend that worked there. He's like, I think I got an in here because we have a new operation starting up. Looks like there's some openings. Let's get you in the door and get an interview. So at the time, there was no art director there for the magazine. There was an opening in publications. I had a little bit of experience working at the college. Well, I'd worked there for 3.5 years. So I knew my way around publishing and design. I could do all the stuff that they were doing. So I got the interview, and they tried me out for, I think, I think it was 2-week trial period, along with another designer too. And I think what really was, had us do all kinds of different paste up work, things like that. But one night there was a change in the program, like a last minute change. And I said, oh, I'll do it. I'll stay late and do it. No problem. Okay. Got it done. Meanwhile, the other guy who they were trying out, he was, boom, out the door at 5:30. It's like, see you, have a good night. But when it came time for everyone to leave at 5:30 for those 2 weeks, is there anything else to do? I was asking questions. You need me for anything else? Be glad to do it. So it was probably a test looking back, to see if I would, fit in. It was a good, good for the team if I was willing to stay late. So that's when they brought me on as full-time freelancer. So my job there was layout artist for the various publications. I think we had WWF Magazine, the program. Those are both monthly. Superstars, I think there's a magazine called Retrospective. I don't remember that too well. The annuals, I don't remember, but you may have one behind you too on that wall.
Yeah, the official annual. I think that's from 91.
Yeah, that's about right. Yep.
Yeah, I think. I don't know what way I'm going with the angle on.
Yeah. I mean, the magazine was like the big deal. The annuals were more like, oh, we got to do this. It's a big, thick, program book for the talent. I loved the job immediately. It was a dream come true out of college. Come on, what college kid gets a job like that? They're thrown thrown into a cubicle farm, and it's this was great. I absolutely loved it. So. We were in the building in Summer Street at the time, and it was a lot of busy. There was constantly people going back and forth due to the WBF was just starting out. Okay, for the folks out there that don't know the WBF, the World Bodybuilding Federation, which you're familiar with too, right?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yes, you are. That reaction. Yes, you are.
Oh man. Yeah. One of Vince's.
Yeah.
What shall we say? Lesser genius ideas.
Yep. Even worse than the football.
Yeah, the XFL. Yeah. Especially with the timing and everything, it's just mad. But carry on anyway, man.
Yeah. So the WBF was just starting up, so there are a lot of things going on. They were outgrowing the building. Meanwhile, Titan Tower was being built across town, and I think we were supposed to move it. Well, first of all, they gave us a date to move in, and that never happened. The building was going over budget from what I was told too, so there was a lot of delays in getting into there. So we kind of had to wait for that. And they were putting people on top of each other, making cubicles where they didn't belong. I get it, but you do what you can do. It's still so much fun. It was not a distraction at all to me. I didn't care. I was having a lot of fun and getting to know everybody there. Like WrestleMania, though, when it came time for that, you would stay the night sometimes there. They would buy you dinner and you'd hang out in a conference room and just wait for the film to come in, and you'd have to make your deadlines. So that's why. But I didn't bother me. It was great. It was the best. It was the best experience. And then as time went on, I started to notice things. Okay, that candy coating started to wear off, so to speak. They were. We were showing pictures of the arenas, and we had been darkening the upper levels, the unoccupied levels, so that you couldn't see them in the magazine. And I'm asking, boy, that's a dark area. What's going on? It's like, well, those are empty seats. I'm like, empty seats. Whoa. Okay. All right. So maybe that's one or two places are not quite selling out. there was also some other things too. We weren't quite in the digital age of magazine production at the time. What we were doing is doing what they call paste up work. There was a typesetter. You would wax the sheet of typography, stick it down on a board, Xerox copy, photography, the wrestler, throw it into place, instruct the Cytex operator exactly what to do. So here we are saying, fill empty seats. So they were actually cloning in people in the seats that were unoccupied. Those were the ones closer to the ring. And I thought, okay, that's a little different. Okay, again, maybe that's just a couple of different arenas. But then the biggest thing was we were editing blood. So the blood, we were allowed to show the blood, but they toned it down so much that you could barely tell it was blood. Almost looked like the wrestler's face was wet. So you instructed them with the film. They scanned the film. They went in with their version of Photoshop at the time, and they toned down the blood. They made it sort of match the skin tone. I'm like, wow, that was the reason why I bought those wrestling rags back in the day, right? And we talked about that. You too. I mean, all the kids wanted the blood. The Ric Flair, that infamous Ric Flair covered with blood. That was all good stuff. That's what we wanted to buy it for. And now we're not showing blood. And another thing too, I noticed we would get the unedited videotapes from Superstars and the other Saturday program, the weekly shows, and there'd be virtually no crowd noise. You could hear individual people in the crowd. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this? Well, that was before they were actually dubbing in the crowd noise into these things. So it sounded like a full hall, but they weren't really, it wasn't really well attended, some of these places.
Crazy to think of, like, Jesus Christ.
You remember back in the times where you'd hear, I don't know if you had access to this, and I think it was mostly on USA Network and places like that, where you would hear the chant, boring. You remember that? Boring.
Yeah, sure. Every so often.
Okay, yeah. Well, they sort of got rid of that as time went on.
Man. Like on SmackDown and stuff as years went on, I mean, they would dub in crowd noise every so often, especially for like when they do like backstage skits and things like that. But to hear, it's so crazy to hear that they actually back then had to do it out of necessity, because there was actually no freaking noise in the crowd and hardly nobody there. It's mind-boggling to think of now.
It is, and keep in mind too, we were coming off of a real high in wrestling in the 80s. I mean, it was huge. The first 3 or 4 WrestleManias were just enormous events, well attended, all over the news too, all over. Everyone was talking about him. It was everything. It was huge.
Absolutely.
And these were the days where it was contracting at a rate I had no clue. I mean, I was going into a great job thinking, oh, it's great, WWF, this is going to be fantastic. And then I started seeing these cracks.
Yeah, because you started in 1990, wasn't it?
Yeah, I started in August of 1990.
So you kind of came in while it was still on its high. So you really got to see the flattening out of everything, in real time, like, as it was really happening, because it was just kind of, pretty much kind of from the end of 1990 on, or even mid 1990, things started to, subtly kind of go downhill. And then 1991, like the steroid scandal and things hit, like, so like you got in there at a very interesting period of time.
Yeah, I did. And I think it was a great time to be a part of it. You just realize that around me, it's like, okay, this isn't all what it is. And don't get me wrong, it was a great experience. The people were great. I don't have a negative thing to really say about the work experience. But yeah, as a 23, 24-year-old kid at the time, to me, it was still awesome. Didn't matter. I'm not worried about this. You don't really look at those things. Looking back at it, though, yeah, there was definitely some other things going on there.
Yeah, definitely. Talk about some of the specific projects that you worked on, some of the magazines and things of that nature. I've some of the ones you worked on back here in my dorky wrestling memorabilia background.
Yeah. Well,
talk about some of your memories from the working on the magazines.
Well, at first they didn't really let me go too much. They were really I was still in that trial period. So I was doing smaller things, doing programs, basically following direction at that point. Not, I was given creative freedom, but again, it's with any job starting out, and they give you, a kind of a short leash. And I was doing just regular small layouts that were already in templates for the magazine and program. It took me, I think, a few months before they gave me like a first feature article, which to me was like I was dying to do it at the time. But and as time went on, I had more projects that were really interesting. But I still wasn't going outside of the building, like doing photo shoots for the wrestlers, things like that, or I didn't have much contact with the actual product. And then eventually they said, okay, you're going to have your first photo shoot. So it'll be over at the photo studio in Titan Tower. There was Titan Tower. There was a TV studio across town. And at the TV studio, they would do all the photo shoots. And they would primetime wrestling. I forget the name of the show. They would record that too.
Yeah.
So as time went on, I started making friends there. Obviously, the writer Luigi and Frito, he kind of warned me. He's like, I hear you're gonna, be hanging out with the boys. So he warned me. He warned me to limit my exposure as much as possible. And I'm like, okay, why? Because they might H-bomb you. But what? These guys carry nuclear weapons? And he's like, no, you idiot. It's calcium. They'll drop it in your drink. You'll pass out, and they'll shave your eyebrows.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I'm watching Monday Night Raw. My mother was in the room too, and they focus in on the 1, 2, 3 kid. All right, he's got no eyebrows, and my mother's like, "What the heck happened to him?" I said, "Oh no, Mom, one of the wrestlers just dropped calcium in his drink, and they shaved his eyebrows." And she turns to me. My mother's an RN for 30 years, and said, "Halcyon, what the fuck did you get yourself into?" So needless to say, my mother was a little skeptical of my career path right there. So, and Lou went on. That wasn't the end of it too. Lou said they'll shit in your gym bag too. And I said, "Oh, that's great. I don't own a gym bag. Nothing to worry about, right?" He's like, "No, you're not getting it. They'll defecate on anything in or on anything you own." So I'm like, all right, tomorrow I got to look for a Kevlar Halliburton case with a laser guided security system and a death ray. But that technology hadn't existed yet. So I was.
Jerry Lawler found out that lesson the hard way. I heard the whole defecating.
And the funny thing is, I thought he was just screwing with me at the time, but no, after you research this stuff and you see YouTube, and it happened. Oh, yeah. Everything happened, just like that.
It's all out there.
Yeah, it was an experience. So I mean, that didn't make me paranoid or anything like that, but it was nice for Lou to do that and inform me what to do and not to do, And I appreciate it. Thanks, Lou, for doing that.
Definitely. Like, even if you had like that technology for locking your stuff up at the time, I think Kurt Hennig might have found a way to overcome that, because he like the stories I've heard of, like the way he would lock stuff and have it stuck to the ceiling and stuff like that, people's gear bags, you know, padlocking the debt out of it and somehow getting it stuck to the ceilings of the dressing rooms and stuff. It's like, where did they think of this stuff? Like, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, I think Halliburton cases. I mean, WWF wrestlers they probably own stock in the company. I mean, every single one of them seemed to carry those things around, and now I get it. I really get it.
Yeah, and the fanny packs, that was kind of a trademark of them back then as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's several photo shoots. I remember Shawn Michaels with a fanny pack too, and of course was looked down upon. Fanny packs came in and just left very quickly. They're not something that could be worn nowadays, that's for sure. But we finally, I would think, we were supposed to move into Titan Tower sometime in, I think it was winter of '91. So after a few months after I really started, but we finally made the move, and I'm thinking it was May of '91 when we moved into that building. So we had room to spread out. They gave us our first tour of the building, and there's marble and granite everywhere, glass, a lot of '90s teal in there too as well. It looked good for the time. It was fun to get in that building. I mean, the building was a palace. We really enjoyed it. And then a couple of months later, I'm noticing that there's a lot of empty spaces still not filled. For a growing company, it's like half of my department. There's all these empty cubicle areas, which kind of lasted and went on. We had nice workspaces in that building too, but we actually put in a request for HR and said, can we knock down some partitions and give us like super cubicles, like a 10 by 14? And it's like, sure, okay, we'll do it. I'm like, oh, that was awesome. They turned down our request for a wet bar, but you know, whatever. we had really nice areas to work in. It was a great building. Unlike today's modern cube farms that have zero privacy and often result in a slow, painful death over the 2 to 3 year period. You know, the cube farms suck. This was great. Everything was really good. It was kind of stretching out. Some new people we added, but it was kind of eerily quiet in our section. And the WBF was in full gear at that point too. The art department, on the other hand, they were going to probably end up invading our area because they kept hiring people, package design, things like that for the WBF. They were, do a lot of in-house support artwork for that at the time. So that's what was going on there. But we settled in, like I said, had a lot of fun. And then, a lot of pranks too, things like that. We were having a lot of fun in the office. We had whole new computer systems put into, so we were loving that. Mac 2s at the time, God knows how much they cost. They were very expensive back in the day. And we were getting a little more into in-house photo editing too, so that we would have some scans done. We would be able to do some of that, take some of that work away from Cytex, save a little money. So of course, I had been on Photoshop since its inception back in 1988. So I'm like, oh great, now I get to flex my Photoshop skills. Here we go. It's good. But I think I didn't exactly do it the right way. We got some scans in for an article. It was a photo of Miss Elizabeth doing it for some Randy, a Macho Man story. And it was a photo of Elizabeth came in and she was wearing like a tube top, okay? And it was kind of a low cut thing. So I'm thinking, all right, let me flex my Photoshop skills here. So stupid me decided to remove the tube top and, for a lack of a better term, fill in the blanks. And they were very nice blanks. I was really proud of my work. I showed Troy, my coworker. That was about it. It's like, hey, Troy, what do you think of this? Whoa, So I think I thought I was being clever. I named the file something like 88 UNB 4001K2.jpg. On my hard drive, just trying to hide it there from Russian hackers. Who knows? Anyhow. Like a month or two later, my boss Jane comes into my office with a Post-it note and said, "Here, Tom wanted you to have this." And I looked at it and said, "Matt, I think it's in your best interest to delete file 88 UNB 11K2 JPEG. Thanks, Tom." So, unbeknownst to me, my hard drive was being shared with the editor-in-chief of the magazine.
Wow.
So just picture your head as like a vessel filled with blood, and you got the quick release valve here. Turn the release valve, okay? All the blood just rapidly releases out of your head at once. Kind of like a controlled nervous breakdown that's the best way I can describe this, okay? The thing is, Tom was very cool. He was the best guy to work with. He was the opposite of micromanager. I was never in any trouble. If I did that nowadays, working in an office environment, right?
Yeah, holy shit.
Just think of that process, huh? Yeah, that wouldn't have been good.
Head on the chopping board for sure.
That's right. But now I realize why Tom said that, okay? Let's flash forward to 2019. Started watching The Dark Side of the Ring. And I know you're familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very well produced. Really loved it.
Great show.
Recommend that to all of your viewers out there. Check it out. It's really good. So I'm watching the very first episode. It was called, got it written down here, Macho Man, A Match Made in Heaven. All right, you remember that one too, right?
Oh yeah. I know where you're going with this one, right? Well. Like yeah.
So he was like psycho jealous, right? You couldn't even look at Elizabeth. You couldn't be in the same room as Elizabeth. And there I am with the naked picture of Elizabeth. All right?
Yeah.
After watching that, I play out the scenario in my mind where the Macho Man shows up at my office and hurls me through the second-story window with enough force that my lifeless corpse would eventually reach the beverage barn across the street.
Oh yeah. What's up with that picture of Liz, brother?
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, forget it. That would have been it right there. I would have been focus of one of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes.
Yeah.
That's not where I wanted to be. Believe me, But I thank Tom Emanuel. Thanks, Tom, for possibly saving my life. That was a nice thing. But don't even ask me for the picture. Okay, I know after this you're gonna ask me for the picture because I pretty much trashed that image immediately. But it probably does exist on a tape backup drive somewhere. I think I'll have to give Troy a call after this interview. So
that's hilarious.
So I started working with talent more and more as we made that transition to the new building, and I became official staff at the time too, which was great. Got my name in the magazine, so I'm a hot shot and all that kind of fun stuff. And so now it was time to actually do some photo shoots with the talent, working with them directly. And to be honest with you, I really didn't work with talent too much, but the times that I did always had something interesting happen. That's just the nature of the business, always happens. So my first photo shoot was with Mr. Perfect. Okay.
Oh.
And I'm looking behind you. Okay. And again, apologize for not having visual aids. when I find all my portfolio, we can do another version of this. And I'll walk you through it, and I'll have more stories too, I'm sure. But my first...
All good, brother, all good.
Yeah, my first photo shoot is with Mr. Perfect. We're at the TV studio. It's later at night. And, nothing big. He didn't really want to be there. We had Brutus the Barber Beefcake kind of pop in. We had Animal from, Legion of Doom pop in too. And those guys were getting ready to go out. They were wrapping up TV shoot. So, and he's getting antsy because he wants to go out with his buddies and he wants to go out and have some fun.
Yeah.
So I'm checking out the photo studio for the first time, checking out the setup, how they have things rigged with lighting, the backdrop, things like that. Very cool. New stuff to me too. I'm looking around and I kind of next this big photo stand with a tray, and there's like a pill. We warned you about the dogs, okay? You know the dynamic. Folks,
that's Road Dog trying to get in.
Right? There's a new dog in the house.
James, go away.
So I'm looking, and there's this capsule, okay? Kind of in a little nook of the photo tray. And then there's another one, and another one. And I'm like, Steve Taylor, the photographer in charge of all that fun stuff. I said, Steve, what's this? I was like, that's just a Percocet. A Percocet? What the hell's a Percocet? Well, it's I guess it's a painkiller, muscle relaxer, something like that. Okay. And come to find out that these guys would eat them like Skittles, man. It would be not uncommon for, I guess, them to take a few of these, drink a few beers, and have room for more.
Yeah.
I had no idea. It's like, oh, good. 2 of those would probably kill me with a beer. I was just completely dumbfounded by that. So but other than that, Mr. Perfect was very cool to work with. We whisked him out of there. We read him. It's like he doesn't want to be here. Okay, we got the shots. Have a good time. Party with these guys. I get it. Mm-hmm. And then he started to come up more often to me. The opportunities to do these photo shoots. Tatanka was another one I did too, and I do believe
we got him. Yeah, he's back there. Well.
Yeah, there you go. I remember that well. Originally, we were supposed to have a wigwam behind him for that photo shoot, and instead we got that small decorative. I don't even think you can see it after all. You can just see him, but he was supposed to be standing in front of. There you go.
We'll give it a go.
There's like some decorative thing behind him. Yeah, okay. I made a wooden doll look like real wood and hung the thing. Took some artificial. Yep, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, all good.
Yep. It was supposed to be a wigwam, and I quote. I was looking for a wigwam. How do I get a wigwam? I don't know. I was just a kid. So I make some calls. Somebody mentioned the prop house. Out in the West Coast, called somebody up there. They referred me to somebody. A wigwam would have cost a ton of money to ship. You need someone to actually construct it from all the parts. And I'm like, not going to fly. So that was a Tatanka shoot. Very nice guy. Nothing really major went on there. I got my chance to do the Undertaker photo shoot. And I think that was by default. I think my boss, Jane, was supposed to do it. She couldn't do it. The Undertaker was a big deal back then. He was as we spoke earlier. He was just coming. I mean, he was destined to be a superstar. So I was really looking forward to that. It was really late at night. There was always a delay. We come in, and he's like, his eyes are bloodshot. He's said hello. Barely said a word to us while we were setting up, getting the lighting right and everything. I think he was actually falling asleep in the corner. I didn't ask him if he had too many Percocets. No, I remember what Lou said, have as little interaction with these guys as possible. So I just, did my thing, didn't really do much. But we took the shots. I could tell he was dead tired. It was nothing more than that. And at the end of the night too, he said, sorry for not being hospitable. I just got off a red eye and I just have no sleep whatsoever. So that wasn't a very exciting shoot, but nonetheless, it was a very cool thing to see the Undertaker and work with him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and another more memorable photo shoot or encounter was with Sergeant Slaughter, and this was after we were the turn from babyface to heel after that bad situation with WrestleMania and it all had to do with they were using the Gulf. We were using the Gulf War to really fuel WrestleMania that year, which wasn't. I don't know if it was the best idea in the world. Obviously, it wasn't. I remember that really well, and I know you do too. Sergeant Slaughter was receiving a lot of death threats. Apparently, understood. We had to change the venue for WrestleMania 2 from the Coliseum to, I think, the LA Sports Arena.
Yeah.
Which is really a subject of a lot of controversy too, because some people said it's because of low ticket sales, and other people said, and and I think Bruce Pritchard mentioned that on one of his podcasts before too, that he claimed it was a little bit of both. So regardless, it wasn't a good situation for him. And Sarge was a really nice guy too, He was well-liked and everything. I felt real bad for him because everyone knew him locally too. I think he lived in Norwalk at the time, and which was just, a few towns over from Stamford from our building. He had a camouflage Cadillac or a limo, something like that. You'd always know Sarge. He was very approachable, always give you autographs. He was great with kids, all that kind of stuff. The photo shoot went really well with him. He was a great guy to work with. Then it was on a Saturday too, so you would think, oh boy, if a wrestler's going to be cranky, it's going to be on a freaking Saturday when I'm taking him away from doing what he wants to do. But he wasn't like that. He strangled me. I'm still looking for that photo. Again, when I track it down, it's in Florida somewhere with my sisters. He strangled me, which was a great shot. I thought I knew the Cobra clutch because, again, growing up, Sergeant Slaughter was another one of those wrestlers who, there's the Cobra clutch. So I thought I knew it. So I put him in the Cobra clutch, and he put me in the Cobra clutch. And as you could probably guess, his version was a little bit better than mine. So much more effective. So Sarge was a trip to work with. It was a pleasure to do that. But then the photo shoots started to get really good, especially with, everybody remembers this, Jake the Snake Roberts, the Cobra biting Macho Man in the ring. Now, that was huge. That was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was like back in the spotlight again. Every, network was covering it. It was all over the place. It was shocking people. It was disturbing people. People to this day still talk about it, how damaging it was to their youth to see that scene on TV.
Sure, they were just talking about it on Joe Rogan there a couple of months ago when Jake the Snake was on it. Can't remember that other guy that he's on Joe Rogan with him, but yeah, he was telling Jake that he ran away from home after seeing it or something like that, I think, didn't he?
And that was a great episode too. I recommend that to anyone. Definitely see the Jake the Snake Joe Rogan episode. It was fantastic.
Yeah, really good, really good. I recommend that as well. Excellent stuff.
It brought back so many memories of this whole encounter and everything. But that, to me, that was Rogan has some talent with especially with the wrestlers too. Every wrestler that he's had on, and I think he's had Diamond Dallas Page as well too. They've all been really, really good shows. The Undertaker one, as we spoke about back in January, that was great. I don't think have you seen that one yet too?
The Undertaker one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I watched that probably the night it went out. I absolutely loved it. Phenomenal episode.
It was. I think my wife watched it with me too. It was really well done. He's a really cool guy. Anyhow, the Jake the Snake incident was a huge deal for us. It was all over TV, so the magazine had to support it at this point. So we needed something really good, something amazing, and the direction was really from editorial that we wanted to get a close-up of the Cobra with its mouth open and the Macho Man and Elizabeth inside of it. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So we could just get a stock photo of a snake, right? No. We're going to actually photograph the Cobra. All right, let me just grab one of these for this experience because yeah.
This will be interesting.
Who got picked for that photo shoot? I did. Yes.
Shark straw.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was behind the scenes. It's like, who should we have this? Oh, get the new guy to do it, right? Doesn't matter what happens to him. Sure. So again, I was young and kind of, whatever. I love it. It's going to be great. But that was Snake. Okay, that's a little different. So the day of the shoot, it was the middle of the week. I don't think that one was on a Saturday. We have Albert, the snake handler. I'm sure you've heard of Albert from the Jake the Snake.
Oh, yeah. He the guy from Connecticut, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Albert was a trip. He was kind of a, quiet individual. It was cool. He was a cool guy. He shows up with the snake, the Cobra. We're getting things kind of set up ahead of time at that point. So he shows up with a Cobra and just a regular black bag, and I'm thinking, oh, just comes in with a black bag. But it's a Cobra. Shouldn't a Cobra have a marching band or a colorful trailer or something like that? I was, here's the Cobra, black bag. Yeah. All right. So okay, we're just about ready for that. Ooh, and I better slow down for this one because I don't want to miss anything. Because at that point, everything went into slow motion. Albert dropped the black bag onto the floor. And I think it was a Chinese Cobra, probably 6 to 7 feet, comes right for me and Steve Taylor. Right for us, dude. Okay? Just think of those times when you're in bed at night as a kid and the monster was underneath your bed and you're keeping your feet up and everything like that. Yeah, we didn't have anywhere to run. This snake was just coming.
Oh, man.
At that point, there was like a voice in my head that went, bing, boom. Hello, Matt. This is your captain speaking. Buckle up. You're in for one hell of a ride. So I acted as quickly as possible. I did the right thing. I hid behind Steve and used him as a human shield, right?
Oh, yeah, as you do.
Exactly. That's because that's what you do. And meanwhile, Albert is yanking that snake back by its tail. And Steve's complexion was ashen and no doubt in pain from the claw marks that I left on his shoulder. And he turned to me and said, I don't think I can do this. And I said, great, let's go to Applebee's and get shit-faced. Let's go skydiving. We can go snorkeling at a sewage treatment plant. Anything's better than making out with a Cobra, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he really didn't want to do it. He was scared, like me. But this was a huge event. We had to get this photo shoot done. We had to produce the right article and everything. It needed to look good. So it was either we bag this and face the wrath of Vince or deal with the Cobra. So the Cobra is definitely the easier thing to deal with, in my opinion. And here was the problem right now. Number one, we had to calm the snake down, position it 3 inches in front of the lens, and get it to smile for the camera.
Oh, Jesus.
Right?
Only in the WWF, only in wrestling.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure what happened over the next 20 minutes or so, except for that annoying voice in my head saying, bing bong, hello, Matt, this is your captain again. You're going to die today. At that point, Steve was just, digging for Percocets, and I don't know. It was surreal. Everything slowed down, but damn, if Albert was amazing. He managed to get that snake in front of the lens plane. It opened its mouth, and he kept it in a trance just by stroking its belly. And the snake was up there, ready to go. And they're like, Steve, we got to go. You should go in and take pictures. And he's Steve is just trying to make lens adjustments too. You got to reach kind of in front of the camera to do that when the snake is right here. And I'm back there. I'm just sitting back like Willy Wonka, popping the Percocets in my mouth, waiting for Augustus Gloop to be blasted through the chocolate river pipe. I don't know what to do. But it was great. We got the shots done. We knew they were going to be good. Snake was cooperative. Who can say that? Right?
Yeah.
But we weren't done yet. Okay, that we weren't done. The next shot was we had to get the snake to flare up. Do the Cobra thing. So I'm laying this white satin cloth down on the floor, and I'm asking Albert, how were you going to get the snake to flare up? And he said, by pissing it off. I said, isn't the damn thing pissed off already? And then he takes his boot, okay? And he starts like pushing his boot at the snake, taunting it. And the damn snake is striking at his boot, okay? Here's the Cobra striking it. At that point, even the voices in my head packed up their Halliburton and got the fuck out. Steve and I are, huddled together. His body spray was spectacular. Okay. And he got the snake to flare up, and Steve is down there taking the shots as quickly as possible. Wow. I do believe we had drinks after that one. I think it was midday.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, that was something I'll never forget, as you can tell. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Only in wrestling will you get a story like that. That's so crazy. It's funny because, like I was telling you before we came on, like I interviewed Scott Casey earlier on today, and he was telling me a story of a UFO encounter that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And so like UFO encounter and Cobra. I'm not entirely sure what the caption is I will put on that story, but UFOs and Cobras only in wrestling, huh?
Yeah. It's never dull. It's
a wild business. It's
not a dull profession, that's for sure. It was, it was like I said, it was a lot of fun.
Can you remember what magazine that was actually for? Like what the cover shot was? I want to check out that shoot.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact issue number or cover for the time. I didn't get to do too many covers. Typically, you identify with the layout, you do things like that. I don't remember that cover specifically, but it was definitely the Macho Man and Elizabeth's wedding. That's what the entire thing focused around.
Oh, okay. So it would have been latter part of '91, I think.
Right.
Thereabouts. Yeah. So the wedding was SummerSlam, and I think like the magazines kind of were a little bit behind. I think, weren't they, in terms of like with the events being covered and stuff like that? Like there was kind of like a month or two kind of a gap there, I think, or that might have just been over here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I think they may have been. I'm really not 100% sure. The cover may have been the Snake's open mouth with those two in their wedding garb. Okay, if I remember, I think we use that for the opener of the article as well. And the funny thing is, looking back at that film after that snake, after that cobra, the snake had actually damaged one of its fangs on Albert's boot when he bit it, and there was
wow.
there was blood. The snake's own blood probably, punctured its own mouth. We had to get rid of that blood too, so there was enough getting rid of blood, but that was understandable. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was used as a cover as well. And I apologize. All of my stuff is actually up in the attic. And if you have me back sometime, and I'm not banned from YouTube, we can go over those things again.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
So we, after going through that stuff, that I think it went over pretty well. It was a good experience. It was a good follow up too. It was a little shocking inside too. The layout was really cool. The snake was almost like in a serpentine fashion, and type was all around it. It worked out. It was totally worth the effort to do it. So
Definitely. You're not going to get too many more like that, like Jesus.
No. As far as the other experiences are, what really stood out in my mind working there was the fan submissions, the things that we received from the mail. Let me tell you, we really got some odd objects sent to us. This was all right when Lex Luger came over. He was huge in WCW. He had good-looking guy. He was like the perfect persona. He had a lot of female fans that followed him. So things that some of his female fans would send in, for instance, we received a pair of girls' underwear, and it could have probably fit a couple of sleeping bags in it, underneath it.
Man.
Collected things like this too, and but the Undertaker, everybody sent shit to the Undertaker. I'm telling you.
Wow.
Somebody actually sent in a potion to cure him and help break him out of his condition. Yeah.
Oh.
So it smelled like skunk cabbage and licorice, and it tasted even worse. Okay.
Oh.
I mean, how do you think I got this beard?
Oh boy.
Wasn't by choice. I mean, autographed picture of Barnabas Collins from the Dark Shadows. Does that even ring a bell to you? Yeah.
I'm not sure. The name sort of rings a bell. I'm not sure.
It was like a 70s show that was like a soap opera that was like reached into the horror genre. Vampires all over the place. It was pretty cool for its time. It was cutting edge. But why did some fans send him a autographed picture of Barnabas Collins in a comic book? I'll never know. It's all right though. We received tons of pictures that the kids would make of the wrestlers too. They were cool. And some of the letters were very bizarre, as you could probably imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one so vividly too. It was just on regular lined paper, like notebook paper, and a photo attached to. I remembered exactly what it said, and I wrote it down too. So it said, "Hello, I'm Betty Gray. I'm 4 inches tall, and I'd like to remove my teeth so that me and the Undertaker could have some fun." Right?
What the fuck?
No, but it was like gold to us to get this shit in. We loved it. We absolutely loved it. By the way, Betty Gray looked like an extra from the orc battle from the Lord of the Rings, just to let you know. But I devoted an entire drawer to these treasures. I mean, that was like my thing. You know, people would come into my office and say, "Hey, what'd you get? What'd you get?" It would be like, "Hey, come check it out." You know, like a drug dealer showing all this stuff. Come on, what do you want to buy? You know, here it is. Check this out. Look at these underwear. Right? Yep. Hold them. It was a blast. It was great. You got to see how freaky the fans were, and we loved them. They supported us, and how could you not appreciate potions and things like that? It was really good.
Oh man, that's wild. Did you ever actually give any of that to the wrestlers yourself? Any of the stuff that came to you? Like, did you
pass it on to them?
Yeah.
No. Remember that whole law of not having contact with the wrestlers? Yeah, that kind of went along with that. I didn't want to here, Undertaker, here's a potion for you to help cure you from your condition, right? No, I didn't want to be that guy either. So,
boy,
all the stuff. It was mostly private, so it was good. The drawer was bursting at the seams after a couple of years. You know, it was really fun to get the submissions. It made life even more entertaining there. At a great job, it made it even better. So, as time went on, my experience there. It was really a transitional phase for the business. It was really the gimmick era. That's what it was. Any new wrestler that came in, they almost always had to have a gimmick, which was okay. All right. The art department did a great job. Tom, Jay, those guys, take nothing away from them. Love their work. So things were
sometimes the company will kind of take some of those designs and they will put their own extra gimmicky stamps on them as well. Like, you know, like Tom was alluding to in the interview the other day. Like, so it was a pretty wild time in that regard. All right. Like, you know, it just seemed like the more gimmicky, the better, you know, no matter how far out there they were going at the time, really, wasn't it?
That's true. And again, not to take away from their work was really good. Tom is a really good artist. But there are some things that just didn't really. It was kind of like we were trying to get back to the. We thought that the gimmicks were a little too much, taken away from the kind of credibility of the sport. It was still considered a sport back then, or maybe we just made that transition to sports entertainment because there was, if I remember correctly, when I was there too, the New Jersey Athletic Commission tried to. We had to pay some kind of a fee for wrestling in New Jersey because we were a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led up to Vince saying we're sports entertainment, so we'd avoid that tax or whatever kind of fee it was.
Yeah, the Athletic Commission, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, that made all the newspapers and news at the time too. But what was happening in the company too, we were hemorrhaging. You know, that was apparent from the, you know, darkened upper portions of the arenas to adding in the seats. We were starting to hemorrhage, you could tell. And what they did was they passed around these questionnaires to all the employees, and they really just, okay, what can you do to help the company? Do you have any ideas and everything? It was really, I thought it was a good gesture that they wanted to hear our opinions and everything. So I remember filling it out. And each employee had a chance to speak as well in front of a company-wide thing. So, I mean, from our stand, we as working in the publications department thought that we should kind of really go back to real people with real names, less gimmick, pull it back. Because, I mean, we were looking at Doink the Clown, you know, those kind of guys, and it just pushed a little too far. And this is coming from a fan's perspective too. And
Yeah.
I can tell you that not everybody that worked in that company was a fan ahead of time. It was just kind of like a job for them, and they had to learn it. But no, I was, and I saw this taking away from the product too. And it was getting far away from the product. It was almost like that quote from Slapshot, Old Time Hockey. Got to get back to the Bruno Sammartinos, Harley Race, Superstar Billy Graham. It's okay to have a George the Animal Steel, but it's not okay to have 50 of them. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for tuning into Pro Wrestling Defined on YouTube. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel to keep up with all future content. And please follow Pro Wrestling Defined on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.